After the conquest in 1066, wealthy Normans were clearly terrified of what might happen to their souls when they died. So they gave land to priories and abbeys in hopes that the monks would pray for their souls. Because of this, and because the Normans were meticulous records keepers of such transactions, we can track the interrelationships of their surnames, but they certainly did not make it easy for us. It turns out that people in medieval England did not think about surnames the way that you or I do today. In fact, when they moved to different land, they would often change their second name to match the name of the land that they were living on. We have a perfect example of this in the St. Clair family. Here's a gentleman living in medieval England named Aubrey de St Clair. Aubrey had a son named Willem De St Clair, who was a tenant of Robert de Mortain in 1086. Willem had a son named Philip de St Clair, and then he had another son named Walter de Essex, or the modern-day version of that is Ashley. So if you find the name Ashley in your DNA SNP matches, you can be almost certain that you are a direct descendant of Aubrey de St Clair. My aim for many years in the DNA study has been to identify what I call superfamilies, that is, groups of related people who have different surnames. I submit that the sons-in-law of Aubrey de Vere were such a superfamily, and I think we can use this kind of connectedness for our 12 distinct lineages to figure out which of those medieval people named St. Clair they might connect to. How? By looking for those surnames in their own S&P matches. And when you find them, A, and then when you match them on an S&P match, B, and C, when you also find medieval records which show those same families working together, giving gifts to abbeys and priories, going off on crusade together, that sort of thing, then I think you have a very good case to make a claim that you connect to those people in medieval times. So let's talk about the sons-in-law of Aubrey de Vere. Juliana de Vere, born 1116, married Hugh Bigot, the first Earl of Norfolk and Suffolk. Rohaze de Vere, born 1109, married Geoffrey de Mandeville, the first Earl of Essex. Felice de Vaux, born 1124, married Roger de Remz. Looking into the backgrounds, the gifts, and other clues of these particular families gives us all sorts of evidence of interconnectedness of these families and can be used to determine whether or not they're a superfamily. Very soon you're going to see why I think they are. Let's start with the de Veres. Aubrey I de Vere followed William the Conqueror to England, either during the conquest or shortly thereafter. Lewis C. Lloyd says the de Vaux family took their name from Vere in the Manche, the arrondissement of Coutances. Aubrey was an undertenant of Geoffrey, Bishop of Coutances. How important were the de Vere family? By the time of Domesday Book in 1086, they held land in 6 counties in England. As either lord or tenant-in-chief, de Vere held 28 manors in Essex, 24 in Suffolk, 17 in Cambridgeshire, 3 in Huntingdonshire, 3 in Northamptonshire, and 1 in Middlesex. The de Veres were very generous to religious houses, and that provides us further clues, because the Norman people were meticulous records keepers of such gifts. The particular one Aubrey I is most well known for is the Benedictine Priory of Cohn in Essex. Cohn became the principal burial site of the Earls of Oxford, the Vere family, for centuries to come. There's not much left of Cohn Priory. The surviving tombs of the de Veres were moved to St. Stephen's Chapel in Burres, Suffolk. Aubrey II was the eldest surviving son of Aubrey I de Vere. He was one of the most prominent royal administrators for King Henry I and the early years for King Stephen, until he rebelled against Stephen. He married Alice de Clare, daughter of Gilbert de Clare, before 1107. They had at least 9 children. Our focus is on the 3 daughters. During the Anarchy, Aubrey de Vere took the side of King Stephen. Geoffrey de Mandeville started out supporting King Stephen. Then he rebelled in 1143. Hugh Bigot, notoriously self-interested, supported Geoffrey de Mandeville, his first wife's brother-in-law. The Bigot family were kinsmen of Richard de Vranche. He was the father of Hugh, who became the Earl of Chester. This makes sense because in 1095 he witnessed the foundation charter of Earl Hugh of Chester's new monastic foundation of St. Werburgh's at Chester. In just one generation, Roger Bigot rose from obscurity to become one of the most important barons in all of England and one of the top 20 landowners. There's a story that his rise was due to warning Duke William the Conqueror of a plan to overthrow him by William Warlick. Post-conquest, Roger held land of Bishop Odo of Bayeux. Roger founded St. Mary's Priory of Thetford in 1106 as a Cluniac order. He also gave lands to the Cathedral Church of St. Mary Coutances for secular canons on the Cotentin Peninsula, as well as the Abbey of St. Peter Préaux. But Thetford was Roger's favorite. It's where he wanted to be buried. A final note on the De Vere family before we move on. In a blog post, I showed proof that the De Vere family and the Vaux family are the same. The Vaux-Vere family were major tenants of the Bigot and gave large gifts to Thetford Priory. And that's further proof of an important family relationship. The Mandeville family. Mandeville is a place name originating from Le Thil Mandeville in the department of Seine-Maritime, Dieppe, in Upper Normandy. William the Conqueror granted Geoffrey de Mandeville many estates. Mandeville became one of the 10 wealthiest men and largest landowners in all of England. Lloyd has the Mandevilles holding in England of both Mullins, Mullineux, and the Montforts. There's that name, Montfort again. If you're all involved in this study, you understand that Montfort is closely associated with the St. Clair family. Geoffrey founded Hurley Priory as a cell of Westminster. Many researchers believe Geoffrey de Mandeville founded the Temple Church in London. He was in fact buried there, and on his deathbed, Mandeville became a Knight Templar. Geoffrey de Mandeville's second son, William, had many interesting family connections. He gave the Church of Sawbridgeworth to Westminster Abbey. Among the witnesses, Willem De Vere and Aubrey de St Clair. But these families are connected by more than just medieval documents. Now, our Herdmanston lineage is connected to a gentleman alive today via a DNA SNP match in the L11P310 study. His last name is Mandeville. That makes it irrefutable that these families are the same as the ones we're looking at in the medieval records. The Remz family. The third and final son-in-law was a gentleman named Robert de Remz, who was a wealthy Suffolk merchant who built Aden Castle in the Tyne Valley of Northumberland in 1296. Being in the border region, you can imagine it was under constant attack. He received a license to crenellate Short Flat Tower in 1305. Aden Castle is also close to Hexham Abbey, the burial place of the very famous Umfreville family. They were witnesses to the gift of Rosalind to the St. Clair family. Further digging on the Remz family turns up fascinating connections. In the early 1300s, Robert de Remz was valet to Sir Robert de Umfreville, the Earl of Angus. The Umfreville came from Amfreville in Normandy. In 1208, Emma de Umfreville married Peter de Vaux. In the mid-1300s, Robert de Umfreville married a daughter of the Bigot family. The calendar of Bigot charters has a grant to Roger de Remz of the manor of Cohn, Essex. You can see how all these families are tying together through land and gifts to churches and abbeys. But even with records research and DNA SNP connections, there's another way to identify superfamilies. Their armorial bearings, their coats of arms. If you've explored the St. Clair surname for more than 5 minutes, then you've seen this symbol. It's the engraved cross. The most famous use of it today is in Rosslyn Chapel. But that's by no means the only use of it. There are many others, and I find them extremely curious. I found this one on a St. Clair grave marker inside a little chapel at what remains of Herdmanston Castle in East Lothian, about 18 miles southeast of Roslyn. Herdmanston was the first documented land received by the St. Clair family in Scotland. It was 1162, and the St. Clairs acquired Herdmanston from the powerful de Mandeville family, who were Normans. In 2010, I met a lovely lady from the UK named Aubrey de Bolam. Meeting her led to yet another chapter in the St. Clair DNA study. Why? Because she sent me this picture. The symbol is carved in several parts of a church called St. Andrew de Bolam in Northumberland, England. And it's carved on an effigy at St. Andrew Bolam. That effigy is a knight named Robert de Remz. There's a plaque that explains the man and the family. The plaque reads, Robert de Remz, son of Hugh de Remz of Worstead County, Suffolk, acquired the half-barony of Bolam circa 1295. He built Adon Castle and Short Flat Tower, which for upwards of 3 centuries was the home of his descendants. Recently, while exploring a book on medieval Northumberland families, I found another surname using the engraved cross. It's the Mandeville family. It's a different spelling of Mandeville, much like St. Clair and Sinclair are different spellings of the same family in many cases. But they're definitely the same family, Mandeville and Mandeville. It's these connections between medieval documents research, where you see people with different surnames connecting with one another, and DNA SNP matches, where you see different surnames connecting with one another, that makes this kind of research extremely fun for me. I hope you'll join me in trying to figure out more superfamilies, because they're out there to be discovered, possibly even in your St. Clair lineage.